Hello, good morning, Jennifer. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Arrow. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. Very excited to share a conversation with you because this book is so valuable and very important right now because as much as the older generation is looking to even the current generations below us, we're not seeing the hard work, dedication, loyalty, and determination. And a book like this, I hope, inspires people to realize, put some elbow grease in it and make a difference.
Oh, Arrow, I can't agree with you more.
To do this book, I mean, you shock me in this book because there's so many things that we've just walked right by and didn't realize that there's a story that goes along with it.
Well, writing it was, a fantastic experience. And, the working class, the story of working class people is an amazing story. They are the people who invented public education, the public libraries, were first, thought up by unions. They've given us so much, besides, of course, the weekend and minimum wages and working hours and, safety on the job.
The importance of those in the unions as well as the everyday employee, the importance is that we just go, I got to go to work. I got to go to a job. But people don't understand there is an important position that you're playing here.
Absolutely. And it's such a huge part of our lives, Arrow, as you know, with what you do. We go every day. We spend just an amazing amount of time at our workplaces. Yep. And, it's a huge part of our lives.
They're my family, and that's exactly how I treat them. I sit down and listen to them. We work together as a family, and it's like it's so important that you have a relationship with them in the way of being together.
Yes, that's really what unions are. It's just solidarity with the folks that we work with every single day. And it's also very democratic. We live in a democratic country. We're very proud of that, as we should be. And, we all have a say, we'll all have a say in what happens this coming November. And, we all want that same say on our jobs. And that's what unions are. It's it's a democratic it's very democratic to have that say on your job.
Yeah. Coming from Montana, my father was part of a union, and I grew up hating the union because it was like my father was always on strike, and it affected our family life. And as I grew into adult shoes, I had to learn to understand the unity of a union.
Yes. That. There it is, right in the word. And, and always being on strike, it's so hard because so often unions get blamed for so many things that aren't really their doing. Mm-hmm. So why are they on strike? Maybe it was that business or corporation who refused to give them a wage increase or to make their jobs safer. Yeah. So the battle and striking is one of the single weapons that the working class have. And so they must use it.
Yeah, it was such a shock when I moved down here to the Carolinas, and they don't believe in unions down here. That really was probably the biggest culture shock I went through.
And I think believing in unions is, there's a lot of, there's just a lot of, I would say bad news about unions that's put out there, just bad press, bad propaganda against unions that, I really hope shift happens, changes, because what unions have done and the stories, and it's really shift happens isn't just the story of unions or the labor movement. It's really the story of the United States, the birth of the United States, and the working class view of what that looked like to go through, colonization, to go through the Industrial Revolution, to go through, World War I and World War II as a working class person. So it's more than just, the formation of unions. But of course, unions are the beating heart of labor. And so they're hugely important. But yeah, I just think that it's such an important topic for everybody, but also for young people.
You're probably going to think I'm a big jerk here, but if I were a school teacher, a history teacher, it would be required reading this book because you cannot understand the foundation of this nation without understanding the people who helped bring it together.
Absolutely. It's absolutely true, and I hope that teachers will use it. I have, on my website, I've worked really hard to create different tools for teachers to be able to use the book really easily. And I also, when I wrote the book, I really tried to contextualize the labor movement within history. And so you aren't just reading about, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire or the Haymarket or the Pullman strike. You're not just reading about that. You're reading about, what is happening in the working class and in our jobs that is affecting those things. And I feel like one of the most interesting stories is how the Civil War happens.
Yeah.
And, you're like, okay, well, why did the Civil War happen? And one of the reasons why is because in 1848, over in Europe, they had the Springtime of Peoples, and that they were really after democracy and to kind of oust the monarchies, and they lost. And so all these people that were like, hey, a huge swath of the working class over there were very demoralized and were looking for democracy, and they came here. So they came here in the 1850s in a huge wave. And when they got here, they were like, oh my gosh, like they took a look at slavery, and they boosted the need for the Civil War. Yeah. And so if 1848 hadn't happened and that working class hadn't come over, the Civil War might not have happened for, another 10 years, 15 years, who knows? But it's that kind of contextualization and that part of the story of being working class that I really want teens and anybody who's working class to know that history.
So we spend so much time talking about the past inside Shift Happens, but at the same time, my heart is wide open and also fearful of this AI revolution. Because, if the computer is going to be trained to do human work, what happens to those that are growing?
Yeah, I know, Arrow. And a lot of people, we hear a lot about AI, but I will say this, and I don't know if this will alleviate some fear, I'm not sure, but, the story of labor is really the story of skilled to unskilled, because that's what capitalism, our economic system, does. It takes skilled workers and de-skills them. And I will say unskilled work or unskilled is a historical term, and I only use it in that context because I believe it takes skill to do every single job. So AI is our newest thing, but there've been so many things in the past. And one of the most interesting ones that is in the book, and I love it, it's the story of glassblowers. And glassblowers were these workers with years worth of skill. Like, to be a glassblower, to work with glass, you needed to be a chemist. You needed years of training and knowledge to work with glass. And then in 1902, along comes the cylinder blowing machine, and that's all over. Glass blowing is no longer a skilled job. All those glass blowers have been unskilled. And so I really do think that this AI is the newest cylinder blowing machine. And and I'm not saying it's not going to destabilize workers. Like, every time we go from skilled to unskilled, it destabilizes us. And I really wish that wouldn't happen. And the way to have that not happen is to organize and, come together in unions and then force laws that help us with these transitions, because AI won't be the last technological advancement that comes our way. It's just the newest one.
Wow. I'll tell you what, in listening to that answer right there, the one thing that it reminded me so much of is that 40 years of radio, but I really didn't know who my listener was. So I took up a job at a grocery store to be with real people. That's what I think everybody should do. Go get a retail job and know why your other jobs are so important, because people are very real and they're always needing something.
Yes. And our jobs, we give so much to our jobs as workers, and those jobs should be giving back. It should be a partnership. And of course, that's what unions are. And before, when we talked about that propaganda, against unions, they're greedy, they're this. Like, when I go into schools, I really talk to kids about, hey, like, let's critically examine the power structure. Like, let's take a look at this article and look how they call the CEO or the president of this corporation. But then when we talk about the union, we call the president of the union the boss. Like, we use this vocabulary. So it's almost like, because boss is almost like a mob term. Yep. And so we go ahead and we just position unions in that way, when really what they are is they are part of the democratic system. They're just, the bottom line is, labor is huge. It brings all of us together, so many of us together, and it can be very powerful. And so there's a lot that is going to fight that.
I always think it's kind of funny how political leaders will be against unions for 3 years, but when it comes to the election year, oh my God, we love you. We're going to be there. We're going to support you. But that's how they treat them.
I know, absolutely. And, because, of course, with the way that money operates and power operates, they're often in those positions because of the people with money. And so that's a part of the book, Shift Happens, just how money has always been a part of our political system and how it is like pulled all the levers, from just, basically, putting their friends, into the positions of power within the government and to lobbying and things like that to get things like laws out of there. Those laws that we need to retrain us and to, not have us lose our homes in economic downturns and things like that. Those are laws we need. But you're absolutely right. Often our political leaders don't think about, working people until they need that working class vote.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Jen, where can people go to find out more about you and show you some love, man?
Oh, thanks, Arrow. So definitely on my website, jalbertmann.com, but also they can find me on Instagram at jalbertmann. I'm pretty active on Instagram, and I hope everybody in the working class will read Shift Happens because it's really their story. And of course, you can get that at your independent bookstore, and you can also go to the public library, an invention of the working class. Go and take it out from the library.
I love it. Please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh, thanks so much, Arrow. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for having me.
You be brilliant today, okay?
Okay, thanks.